Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here today. And I'm even more excited because we've got a kick-ass guest today on who's going to share some of her amazing insights, tips, and tools on how she's not only helping herself, but entrepreneurs in the real estate and other industries out there to really learn how to market effectively and then target the people that you really need to target versus trying to talk to everybody. As I made a joke a couple seconds ago, a lot of entrepreneurs want to carpet bomb everybody they come into contact with, trying to, hey, sign up for my stuff or be a part of it. And that's not an effective way long-term to be doing business. So we are honored and just excitedly jacked up to have Miss Juliet Clark joining us today on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Do you have sound effects?
I got a little sound effects. I got some sound messages on here. Yeah, I have a whole, I got like 6 little sound effect boxes here that I use from time to time.
Wow, this is going to be fun. Hopefully
they're
good. They're like good sounds.
Well, Juliet, for those that don't know who you are, it's funny. You reached out to me, and we are already in multiple circles together with different friends, from Aaron Young to the Hazards to even Meryl Chandler from Credit Sense on there, stuff like that. So why didn't you share a little bit about who you are and kind of what you're doing out there with people these days?
So I started out as a publishing company and quickly found out that people were bringing us books and no platforms. Coaching is, in my estimation, probably the only business out there where you can bootstrap your way into $200,000 worth of debt without a product. So what I did was I created a platform that is a lead generation platform and also a lot of consumer feedback, which is a roadmap to where you're going next. So it qualifies the leads for you that you've generated, and then you can decide who you are going to actively work with, who's ready to go, and who's kind of just a drive-by looky-loo that you'll see them later.
That's a great thing, because I think a lot of people, when they come from leaving their job or starting their side hustle, or I think everybody says they have a book in them, right? And a lot of people think, I'm going to write a book and be the next greatest author out there. And they're like, it doesn't always work that way though, right?
No, it never works that way unless you're extremely lucky. That was one of the things that was going on is these people would go out to a business building workshop. And, the business build was, you need a book, you need to be a speaker, you need a program coach, there were all of these things you needed that, like I said, you went into bankruptcy and you still didn't have a product. Most authors that are out there that do really well, they already have an audience and they already know what book that audience wants. And that's what's really important here is don't guess.
Well, that's a big thing, because our buddy Aaron Young always says it's great to be an entrepreneur, but if you can have the greatest product, but if nobody wants it, you're just wasting your time, right? And I know you've heard Aaron say that before, like I have on multiple occasions at either his events, and you're in his inner circle as well as I am. But that's one of the things that you really kind of help people out there focus on, is finding really kind of what their audience is looking for, correct? And go from there.
Yes, sort of. So we kind of work in 2 areas. So if you've already developed that product, we go out and find out if it's the right product or if you're in front of the right audience, because it could be a great product, but you're just not in the right place. And I'll give you a great example. I was at an event with a gentleman who had this toilet piece. And it was a really great, you pull out the screws at the back of the toilet, you put this in, you can lift up when you clean it. And he was over talking to men, and no offense, men, but you are not the germ Nazis in your household. So he was telling all these men how easy it was to install, and they were glazing over. But when we took him over to the women, who are the primary people in your home that buy, they were excited because they know the back of that toilet is nasty. So he had a great product, but he was in front of the wrong audience. So that's one place where you can play with it very well. Another place is the way we do this, you can actually start to see the patterns of what your audiences really want. And if you're in front of the right audience, they're going to tell you, they're going to give you the blueprint or roadmap to where you take them next. So you can use it on many different levels.
So you're saying it's important to listen to your audience so you're not pissing away your leads then, basically?
I actually like to be more vulgar than that and say, shut up and listen.
There you go. Shut up and listen. I love that. So what are what are some of the key components to shutting up or listening better out there?
Well, one of the things is stop relying so much on digital.
Mm.
We've all gotten into this world where digital is the end all be all. We hire digital marketers, and this is the key part: is they all ask us, "Who's your target audience?" Well, if we knew that, we wouldn't need you. Like, honestly. So we're already starting out on the wrong foot with, that company's going to develop your message. They're asking you who your audience is, and then it's going to take 6 months to really get into that. You're $50,000 into them, and then they say, oops. Oh, I think we got it wrong. So getting away from thinking that digital's the end all be all and going back to good old fashioned talking to each other. The whole dynamic we set up here is to lead those highly committed people into conversations. And they're not necessarily sales conversations all the time. They're relationship building conversations. Because those people you build a relationship with, they're going to be your clients for life. So that's where we're really aiming this is there's a balance between the two, but you can't expect, I always tell my clients this who come in and they want the cash machine. I want to just sell stuff on the internet. And I always tell them, you know what? You should go find the Loch Ness Monster or the Yeti, because I think it's in a locket around their neck.
So you're saying a lot of people are run screaming after a little while, huh? Because that's how they feel. Like you said, 6 months in, you've paid 20, 30, 40, 50 grand, and then to find out that they were fishing in the wrong pond or they're targeting the wrong people, which is unfortunate. And we see that happen all the time. I mean, I go to some of these big digital marketing conventions and I hear these people up on stage and, oh, you need to do this, this, and this, and this. I said, well, that works for somebody who's buying makeup, but I'm in the real estate community. I'm in the distressed debt space. So what are some effective ways, maybe, I don't know, that people can help identify, I guess, their avatar or really focus on streamlining that thing, I guess, narrowing it down a little bit?
Well, one of the things that we do is if you have a program or, you're a consultant, we take the success points of what you teach or what you're trying to get across to people. And the way we present it is that people are self-assessing where they're at on that path to success. So really, by the time you get done with ours is an assessment marketing tool, by the time they're done, they already know they need you. And how easy is it to sell? Because when you're the person who's convincing, you've already lost. When you're trying to convince someone. So this is where people come to the conversation and they already can see that if they want to be successful in certain places, they've got some work to do.
So it's a kind of I won't say leading, because you said if I'm the person that's trying to coach it, I'm the one speaking more in the conversation, I know I've lost. Right?
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. No, go ahead. So I've lost, but it's all about trying to get them to be speaking more, asking questions, or answering, I guess you could say, yeses along the way, right?
Not only yeses, that we come back to shut up and listen.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, talking to them about, what are those strengths, what are those weaknesses, and how can we get you to where you want to be in 3 months or 6 months, because you've already identified that you have those weaknesses.
What are some of the I guess maybe the biggest weaknesses that you see from people that are struggling out there?
Oh gosh, I have a section on my assessment about funnels. I'm lucky if anybody gets a 5. And the reason is we don't get into the task of funnels because anybody can set up a funnel. Anybody can put a sales page together, anybody can opt in, but it's whether it converts or not. And that's where we really have to dig in and ask questions about, are you getting conversion? And when I define conversion, I hear a lot of digital marketers tell people, oh, we're getting conversion. Look, we had 1,000 people click. But conversion is really, are people buying? Because here's a coaching program for you. If you have 1,000 clicks and you're not getting any sales, I dare you to call Lexus and try to make your car payment with clicks. And if you can do that, you've got a coaching program.
Yeah, I don't think Chase Auto Finance is going to say, "Oh, you got 1 million likes. That's great." Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Awesome.
We like you too, so we're going to skip this month's payment.
Yeah, you're a popular person. You're doggone it, people like you. We're not going to collect on you. Yeah, that doesn't. But that's the thing we see all the time. Everybody, build a funnel. Oh, hey, you put everybody in your funnel, and then work it down to the point. And everybody gets excited. Oh, I have so many opt-ins, but it's all comes down to what's that conversation kind of flow like to find those yeses or shut, as you say, shut up and listen, to kind of drive that point where then it's a buying decision at some point. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. And part of what we do is we have some algorithms built in, and we actually ask those tough questions that a lot of entrepreneurs are afraid to ask. So
hang on a second. Hang on a second here.
Are you writing this?
It's a big dot. I want people to listen to this because this is going to be good. It's a big points here. Woo, let's slow down a little bit. I'm getting excited over here. I'm sure you are too. You're laughing at me. Yes.
I'm getting excited about the bells. No.
I know. Hey, hang on a second. Here, we just don't want people to end up like this. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want these points. Let's talk about some of these points because I know this is some nuggets right here for everybody out there. So let's talk about this.
So are they 100% committed to the problem? Think about that for a minute. Do you want to spend all day on the phone with people who just want your advice, but they don't want to pay you? Yeah. So are they really 100% committed to fixing that problem? Number 2, are they willing to invest? Let's ask them up front, because if they're not, then we don't want to spend the day on the phone with them either. And then will they schedule that appointment with you to discuss what's going on with them? If they can't get high scores on those 3 questions, they're not your people. Mm-hmm. So that's really where we start separating the wheat from the chaff. You can tell I'm in the Midwest. But that's where we really start to get intentional about who are we talking to on a daily basis? Who are we giving our time to? Because for a lot of coaches, it's a time trade. Mm-hmm. And then, the next piece of that is if they're highly committed, let's get them on the phone and have that conversation. But what if they're medium commitment? What if they're kind of wishy-washy on a couple places? Maybe they're 100% committed, but they're telling you they may or may not invest. Well, those are the people that are on the fence, and we want to be able to nurture them. Mm-hmm. So we have to decide, do we have those conversations or not? Is there other information we can gather that is, let's get them on the phone? And maybe that looks like they're maybe not 100%, maybe they're 80% committed to solve that problem and 80% committed to, investing. Then we want to talk to them, definitely, or at least nurture them. And then there's that whole group, and I know you guys will recognize this if you speak. There's that whole group of people in the room that they don't want to invest, they don't want to solve the problem, but they do want to run up to you at the end, introduce themselves, and ask you how to do something.
Oh, I like to call those people, this is an old radio DJ thing from back in college radio, those are the prize pigs, okay? The prize pigs, because every radio DJ that's ever done a live remote somewhere, they've got prizes to give away, T-shirts, bumper stickers, movie passes, and it's always the same people that show up. They're not doing anything, they're not committing anything, but they got a million of the K101 posters in their yard, or they're the ones that they're constantly wasting time. And yes, the prize pigs, yes, I might be a little rude there, but you're 100% there because everybody wants, I want to get something, but they're not the 10% that's going to do something anyway. They're not the 20% they're going to pull the trigger. And I see this happening. I know you do. A lot of entrepreneurs, speakers, real estate investors, they spend their time with the dead wood leads. We talk about Wall Street or the prize pigs that want to take as much information from them, but not really say yes to any type of buying decisions.
I'm having this visual right now that the next time I'm in a room full of people and those people come up, I whip out orange bumper stickers that say prize pigs.
You can use it. You just got to give me credit for that once or twice.
I will. By Scott. No, we should all do that. Can you imagine how quickly those people would disappear from seminars?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. So many people in our real estate side, I'm just trying to bring it back into a lot of our audience. We've got a lot of people that go to local real estate clubs, and they're building their network at the local RIA meetings that happen monthly when there's a bunch of people there, just tire kickers and door knockers. And then you've also got people that are paying to go to conferences and trying to network and raise capital there. But then there's also people that are doing a lot of online marketing, trying to drive traffic and engagement to get people to either invest with them whether it's 25, 50, 100 grand, that's a big buying decision, or people looking maybe to sign up for a workshop or a training or go from there. So I love what you're saying here, because it's stuff that we see every day. And I had to change what I did a few years back, because I was having those conversations with people that weren't doing anything. Mm-hmm. I wasn't asking them buying questions to make sure and focus my hours of the day, because we only have 24 hours each day. And I spend my time with people that weren't going to pull the trigger. So I had to figure out so this is why I was so excited when we talked the other day. I was like, this is great. Everybody needs to hear this, because if they don't, we all get frustrated. We waste our time with people that aren't going to pull the trigger on anything, right?
Right. Absolutely right. But there is a key to this. You have to actually work the leads when you get them, because that's the one thing we find is when we're working with people and they actually start to get qualified leads for the first time, they come back and they say, oh my gosh, what do I say to them? So we've had to add enrollment conversations into that because of it, because they just like this happens sporadically. And so you really have to be able to follow up when you're done too.
Exactly. Now, I want to make sure, and everybody knows this too, that Juliet comes from a real estate background. That's one of the great things that I loved when we were talking on the phone. That's why I wanted to bring her on here, is because she understands the mindset. You've been a realtor for years. You've worked in the Tom Ferries. We also worked some other things that we work with to get or know people together on different things. But that's why you've got such a valuable mindset and insight to kind of the mind of a realtor or an investor or things like that, right?
Yes, the minds of realtors are a very scary thing. But yes,
it is Friday the 13th when we're filming this, but watch out.
But yes, I did. I was a real estate broker. And when I went into real estate, I came out of advertising. So I was in the top 10 of my company within the first year, and there were 400 agents, and it was knowing how to market. And that was an experience. I did that through 2012, but I kind of backed off in 2008. I was working for the banks. And when the market went down, and I was that one that knocked on your door, took your home away, and it was soul sucking. It really was.
That's when we first started buying distressed debt, was back then, and buying stuff at discount. And I was just talking. He was talking to my accountant a few minutes ago. We were talking about the fact that he works with borrowers on the other side of the do, trying to keep them in their house. I'm like, hey, that's great. We don't want to take a borrower's house with the note investing business. We actually prefer to keep them in their house if we can, because we make more money that way. It turns out to be a true win-win-win across the board for stuff like that. So yeah, you being in that aspect of things, working for the banks are pretty much black and white. You either pay or you no stay, as they like.
Yeah, they definitely are.
So let's go back, bring it back a little bit. Some of the buying decisions or qualification of the leads. What are some things that you recommend people should work on or put in place to help them work those leads better?
So if you're out speaking and you're gathering the room, the process that we use, you have results immediately. Have that sales team like right there in real time, separating out who's that high commitment. Send your biggest, your best closer out to start building that relationship with them. Those people who are middle, send that person who is your soft, sympathetic, really great relationship builder. Send them out to say hello, see how you can help. Those looky-loos, if you have an event, those are the people you send out the door with your low-cost program, your box set, your books. But make sure that you have a team in place that knows how to close, knows how to build relationships at every level, so that if you have an event going on, you can get somebody with something out the door, every single person. So that's really a lot of it. And the enrollment conversations, just listen. You have results right in front of you with our system to talk about, this looks like you're doing really well. That's great. Congratulations on building that. This looks like your area of weakness. Tell me about that. What have you done? What worked? What didn't work? How do you think you can help? How we can help you with that? So really getting into, those thoughts inside their head, because the more you listen, the more they feel heard, they feel seen. I don't know if I've seen organizations or been on calls where, it's a 15-minute call and they don't want to know anything about me. They just want to sell me. And And I'm frustrated. I don't feel like that's the product for me, because if that's my experience at the first leg of the customer journey, it's not going to be a good ride.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing too. It's all about building rapport in that customer journey, really, and using the God ratio. God gave us 2 ears to one mouth, and as you said, really listening to what the person's saying. Because if you're really listening, your leads, your potential buyers, your investors, they'll tell you exactly what you need to hear and listen, or say to them to help them close a deal or pull the trigger or buy something, right?
Not only that, it's what you listen to and hear that makes them not ideal. Because if any of you have ever worked with a client that was less than ideal and you took them anyway, you know what a nightmare they are. And they take away your time and energy from people who really need it. So as part of that exploration, you'll have some questions where you can find out, like the one about what's worked for you, what hasn't. If somebody has this huge litany of what hasn't worked, you have to stop and ask yourself, were they present? Did they show up? Did they work it? Because unfortunately, at the end of the day, if someone's not successful inside of what you teach, it's never their fault. Remember that. When they go on Yelp or they tell their friends, they're never going to say, oh, I signed up, I paid, but yeah, I did can I cuss on here?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. F yeah. Go right ahead.
I did a half-assed job of working it, but they could have done a better job of teaching. They're never going to say that. It's always going to be your fault. So you want those people that you perceive are excited, they're going to show up, and they're going to be present, and you're going to give them a lot of time and energy because they're go people on it. So,
and that's sometimes it's a tough thing for somebody who's brand new or working through it, is they want clients. And I only say this from teaching and coaching for over 10 years now. Yeah, some of the best decisions I made were people that I turned away from as clients, or put them into something else instead of having them come aboard. Because that's the same thing in investors. Some of the best investors that have been great, the ones that were good to go, ready to rock and roll, understood it, great. And then the worst ones were the people that drove you batty with emails and phone calls every day. And we don't have time for that. And sometimes I had to say, hey, thank you, but we're not a fit. Let's just move our separate ways and go from there, right?
Well, yeah. And that was a big lesson I learned in real estate. I never had people sign the buyer agreement. And it wasn't because I didn't want them to stay, because buyers are such a flaky creatures, but it was because I always wanted the option to say, see ya, if I needed to. And that, that agreement didn't help with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You wanted, that's such a great point there. You want the out clause, not just them. You need to have your own out clause as well too for things. And that's a great point for people to consider in when they're writing this into their education or their classes, or maybe their funding agreements out there too. Hey, we've got a PITA clause, a pain in the ass clause.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Oh, use it too. A funny story. People that I first learned the real estate stuff from, I used to do a lot of stuff with them, and they had me on as they created an LLC called PITA. It was the pain in the ass assets that once they just put these assets into. So the PITA clause, yeah. But that's the thing, is that you want to put that in there, like you just said, because that saves you so much energy and trouble in the back end though, right?
No, it definitely does, especially on divorces. You walk into a house where they want divorce and they want to sell their house and have you represent them on the buy. Run. Just run. I remember going into this one, and they had, when I did their cash out sheet, I forget what it's called now, but they had like $400,000 equity, but they were sure to tell me that they needed 300 each to go on to their new lives. And I was like, yeah, no.
That math doesn't add up there, right?
No, not at all. But they were adamant. I'm like, yeah, I can't help you. I'm good, but I'm not that good.
Yeah. See, go find somebody else to deal with that. But that's why don't we talk a little bit, because you've got the different quizzes and the quiz is the wrong word for it. Oh my gosh.
Assessment.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. How long should that be for somebody out there, or short, or I mean, I'm sure it's going to vary a little bit by industry, but when people are coming back in to help them kind of identify those leads or help them qualify those leads, we're talking 30 question assessments or?
No.
Okay.
We want this, especially if you're a speaker or you're using it at an event, at anybody's event, not even your own. We want this to be a 2 to 3 minute experience. Take out your phone, go to this URL, and I'm gonna have a few talking points while you're taking it. But what you're gonna find is what we're gonna talk about today, where you're really on the scale of this before we talk about it, because I want you to know how well you're doing with what we're going to talk about today. So 2 to 3 minute experience. That's why I said the results are in, and your team can literally go through them while you're talking. Depending on your talk, you give it either at the beginning. We just recently had someone, Aaron Young, coach them through. He looked at it and he's like, try it at the end. He got great results at the end. Like 89% of the room took it.
Wow.
And and there was there were probably, I think it was almost 60% were high commitment. But so, that's what you want, is to be able to do that and get them through that, so your team has the results. And I forgot the question. What was the question?
No, but how long should it be?
Okay. So 2 to 3 minutes. We really recommend that it's 3 to 4 categories, because you want to bunch this up into categories around what you're going to speak around. No more than 20 questions. And that's including the 3 commitment questions. Now, the other part of this that we do that's really different from everyone else is we ask for name, email address, and phone number. A lot of marketers out there will say, oh, you can't ask for their phone number. Like they won't give it to you. If they won't give you their phone number, they're not your people. They don't want to hear from you. I'm sorry. That's the stark reality. And then the other thing that sets us apart is we have a micro commitment at the end where we want to know their skill level. So we have 3 or 4 buttons that they can push to identify, are they a beginner? Are they an expert? And the reason we do that is when you get on that call with them or you build the relationship, if they're a beginner and you're talking over their head, they're going to walk away. Mm-hmm. Conversely, if they're pretty good at what they've done so far, but they want to get better, and you're talking to them at a beginner level, they're going to say, nah, you're not the guy that's going to get me there. So it's really refining and knowing who you're talking to before you start talking to them. So it really should be very short. Now, we have a couple clients who they brought us these ginormous. One of them was a 20-minute deep dive assessment, and she couldn't get anybody to take it. So we actually made this a 2-step process, where she has what we call the quick and dirty that she did from the stage. And she actually used it in pre-marketing at an event, and 137 people took it. There were about 400 at the event. And she called those people before the event, the high commitment, and said, hey, I have some 30-minute spots available. She filled 30-minute spots at the event with high commitment people. And then when she did it again from the stage, another 207 people took it.
Wow.
So she went home and worked for like a week and a half just on those all of those high commitment leads that she got. Not all 207 were high commitment. I don't want, Sure.
But still having 75% of a 400 person event to opt in to something to go through that, I would say that's unheard of for the most part in the industry out there. Would you agree to that, Juliet? Or with you guys, that's normal with what we do?
Yeah, no, it's sort of normal with what we do. And it's interesting because about a year and a half ago, I spoke at an event and someone from the NSA challenged me on it. And I was like, my stats are my stats. I'm sorry. Like, what's wrong with you that you're only getting 40%?
The NSA can learn something from you.
I don't know if they could or not, but they could at least not challenge me while I'm on stage.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But that's amazing. So like some of the things, like we have our online conventions, and I usually send a survey out and try to get everybody to fill the survey. We get about 20-30% and we'll have anywhere from 400 people in our online to 1,000 that are joining us. And so we get some between 25 and 35% that are filling out like 25 questions. Like, tell me about your experience, what's your focus, do you have this, do you need that? And that's such gold to us after the event, because then we can identify following up with those that are experts or brand news and stuff like that. But I love what you said. There was something, what you said is that they sent it out beforehand and they pre-booked before they ever got there. Oh, that's just awesome.
Yes. Because think about it. You are the credible person on stage. Somebody's brought you in because you've got the goods. So those high commitment people are pretty excited that you're going to spend some quality time with them. So be sure when you go into those, you have some tips, you're super helpful. You may not even want to sell. It may be something. What she did with hers is she actually identified, of those high commitment people, once she talked to them, who's actually eligible for that nightmare 20-minute quiz that might, like, who's going to take the next step and go into that bigger one. Because one of the things, there was another client we had that came in that was a financial advisor. She was asking a lot of deep personal information. And if people don't know you, like you, and trust you, they're not just going to give up the goods. So you can use this as a precursor to get them in, warm them up. If they're right, then go on into that next phase where you ask some more intimate questions.
It's kind of like going on the first date. You're not going to ask them for the name of the kids and what they want to get married in the first hour of drinks. Right?
That's so funny. I always say that because I'm a single woman. Like, if I go out on a date and I'm sitting in a restaurant and the guy says, "Oh my God, I love you. I want to marry you within the first 30 minutes. I'm like, where's the bathroom? I hope the alarm doesn't go off on the door when I go out the back door. And where's my damn Uber?"
Go to the bathroom so you can order the Ubers. Oh,
exactly. And take a little kit so you're like MacGyver, so you can disengage the emergency alarm.
But that's so true. I mean, people get so when we're out marketing or talking to people, a lot of people just like, it's like that new puppy, like, jump on, let's just oh, hey, what's going on? They want to know everything. I'm like, whoa, hang on, you don't need to know all that information, because we're not doing business. We're not even really in the same ballpark, or let alone the same bedroom for the most part.
Exactly. I call that, I actually have a book coming out later this year called Pitch Slapped.
Oh, I like that.
That's exactly what it is.
Pitch slapped. I love, but that's, and so one of my mentors or line said, don't get diarrhea of the mouth where you're throwing up on so much information, whether you're just throwing up, giving so much information they don't need to know, or asking so many questions that they're not comfortable. You've got to build that rapport. And so I like what you said. I think it's huge. If you're listening out there, and this works well in any field, ask a few questions, get them comfortable, and then see if it goes on to that next date or that next round of 20 questions or whatever, right?
Yeah. I should do that when I date. I think I may be in the Guinness Book of World Records for most first dates not followed by a second date.
You ever been on a speed dating?
I haven't, but I'm just thinking, like, maybe I should take my assessment with me when I.
There you go.
Pre-marketing.
So I'm not single, but I'm not married. As we joke, we're not married, we're happy. But I went on one when I got divorced 10 years ago, and there was nine guys and 9 girls, and it was just a train wreck going through those. For a lot of people, and they're asking questions. You're like, "Oh, what was that?" or weird, and that's the thing is, I'm sure you've got to tailor your first round of questions, or that first initial kind of first impression with your listeners or potential clients when you're at an event, right? You really got to kind of dive into. And are there any specific things that are really kind of golden that work across the board for a lot of places?
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
So, like, if you're going out to an event and you're speaking from stage, I'll just give an example, speaking in front of an audience of 100, 200 peers that are in the real estate community. Mm-hmm. I don't think you would jump on and say, "Hey," would you maybe ask, like, initial deals, like, "Hey, how many deals have you closed in the last?"
Oh, no. Because a lot of times they're, especially real estate people, they're at the event because they're not closing deals.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So don't ask that. I don't want to have to slink out of the room because I sold 3 homes in the last year.
Yeah. Well, but I'm saying if it's done, but if they're answering on their phone, is what I'm saying. You're asking the audience.
Yeah, you are, but you don't really want to get into something that deep. You
Okay.
want to find out. I'm trying to relate back to real estate, but you don't want to get into specifics, but you want to find out what they're doing. So let's put an example of someone who's a real estate coach. They might ask, social media. You might ask some things about social media. You might ask some things about prospecting because I know when I was in real estate, I was one of the few people who loved to prospect. I mean, people would literally like take poison not to have to prospect in the morning. So, you want to keep it in generalities and have them rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. And here's a tip on it. Don't ask about specific tasks. Make it around the success principles, because when we first started, we had a social media quiz out and we ask about tasks, and everybody's doing the tasks, but they're not getting conversion. So that's why we want to go right to the success. Like if you're prospecting, what does success look like? And then have them rate themselves on it. And what's really key here is that self-assessment. If you tell me, it's like when you write a book. When you tell people something, they're disengaged. When you show them something, they're completely engaged. So I always kind of relate that to when I used to play golf with my husband. Like, if I just got to play, or he said, hey, do this, I was okay with it. But when he got behind me and then started, doing the teaching, I wanted to smack him with a club because he's telling me and it feels like I'm being attacked. But if you show them, then it's a more gentle, if I really want this, I have to do it. So now you guys know why I'm no longer married. We used to play golf.
There you go. That's a whole different conversation there for a different time. That's a really good point. Showing them how to do it is versus than trying to teach them, force them to do it their way. Showing them how to do it, because everybody will adjust a little bit what they're doing to something that fits them. And like look, golf swings are completely different across the board for everybody. But we all know we got to go up and hit it with a 7-iron, but we got to have our own little kind of massaging the swing so it fits with what we're doing to make it successful for us, which it may not be the exact same thing across the board as a cookie cutter definition of success for people, right?
Right. And here's a great real estate example. I used to know people that would say, okay, I'm going to prospect for an hour, and they would call and they'd get an answering machine. It has to be more like I have to connect with 10 people today. So when you're task oriented, I can do the task and do it in a way that's not really serving me. So when we ask that, you're going to get someone who has all 10s, but they're only selling 3 houses a year. So you really have to do it and have them connect with what that success looks like.
Good stuff. Good stuff there. Where do you see the biggest failure of new investors, new realtors, new entrepreneurs out there it just drives you bonkers? What's the biggest thing that drives you bonkers, a pet peeve?
Gosh.
I know there's many. I know there's got to be many there, okay? But
okay, there's a couple of things. So I think the biggest failure is not really knowing if you have the right product in front of the right audience. And the failure behind that is most of the time you've created something that you think will be really great without validating. And think about this for a moment. If I were going to go out and get investors, I could never go to the investors and go, I've got this really great thing, but I have no idea who it's for. Will you give me $1 million? And that's exactly what all of these people do. And they don't have to go validate it because they're bootstrapping. The second thing I see, and I think that's what we use the assessment for to change, is we have all been doing campaigns the same way on the internet since the inception of time. And nobody opens their emails for joint ventures anymore because my friend Scott, who I barely know, but you don't need to know that, is the most awesome person on the planet and has this great new program. And then we give lead magnets out that are like, we've always equated that it's an exchange of my genius for your email address. Nobody's opening email. So is that really an exchange? And I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. And so that was my hope with the assessment marketing, is it would replace that old lead magnet And now we have a true exchange of information. I know what you need. You know what you need. I know if you're going to buy. You don't have to open your email because we're actually going to talk.
And I'm actually listening versus just spouting at you, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah, exactly. But you're so right there. Like I got probably 4 emails a day from people that are in the internet marketing or friends. Like, oh, my best friend does this or this person did this, and they're just like shouting at us. And I'm like, why are you shouting? Nobody's listening. You know?
Exactly.
You're trying to sell me something that's not even a fit for what I need or what I'm doing. You're just shouting out, and it's like throwing spaghetti against the wall so you want sticks, and that's not an effective.
Right. I've heard the best quote recently about you don't want a bullhorn, you want a dog whistle.
Ooh, I like that.
And I wish I could quote who it was, because now I feel bad I stole his quote.
No, we'll just say give credit to the person whose quote it is that you don't need a bullhorn, you need a dog whistle. Oh my gosh, that's such a great. I see in images and graphics like bullhorn. Oh, you're the note whisperer, the dog whisperer.
There you go. You're the note whisperer. You're the note whistler.
Yeah, but that's a great point, because if you look at where everybody's, I was talking with somebody earlier about how we're all fighting for eyeballs and earballs, especially in the podcasting space out there. We're all looking for people to listen to our shows or to follow us, subscribe, or then also to come on over and jump into our funnel if it fits for them. And hopefully they end up signing up for something, or they're opting in and then they're getting bombarded. But that's a different mentality of what you're saying, is you don't want the full 50,000 people to opt in. You want that 5,000 or 500 people, really, maybe, or 50 people, whatever it is, your however big your audience is, to really be the ones you connect with. Because then, as our buddy, Mitch Russo, who runs a podcast, you're called your first 1,000 clients. It's easier to help your existing clients versus going out and finding new ones and having to start all over again with that whole process, right?
Yes. And it's so interesting. When I was at the think tank yesterday, I talked to a gentleman who works he has government contracts and he works with AI a lot. And the social media companies asked him to do a study on their influencers. And he went back and told them that their true influencers weren't the people with 1 million followers. They were the people who were really engaged were going with smaller followings. Mm-hmm. And the social media companies didn't want to hear about it because they like to tout those people with the bullhorns and the bigger followings. So any day of the week, I would rather have a really committed following of people who dug everything I did than 1 million people who just don't care.
Mm-hmm. That really comes down to the whole niche and the aspect of having a niche and staying deep in that niche, like what we've done with our note investing versus trying to do all sorts of other real estate. We stick in with distressed debt and really went deep on that. But it's also, you see that from other advertisers that talk about, hey, they like the aspect of having somebody who's got 2,000 really focused, like Instagram followers, that they can share stuff, versus somebody who's got 2 million that's just blasting it out with a bullhorn. But that person that's talking to those 2,000 people really know what's going on in their lives and know their avatar, their strengths, their weaknesses, their troubles, and their, what they see on a weekly basis or a daily basis, and can identify with those hot buttons, those distress points, to be able to cater to them to either A, deliver something that's useful to show them how to overcome that, like you said, versus blasting at them, or providing a solution that really does work for them for that group, versus trying to sell something that's supposed to be generic across the board. And I think, and I know what you're saying is we have to quit being that, oh, I'm great for everybody, when we're not, right?
Well, not only that, but just using the roadmap. In 2016, I sold a bunch of DIY programs from Stage. And when we went back 3 months later and talked to those people, they said they were willing to pay more for a group program, for support. And so we went back and sold a bunch of those people a group program. And that was, we raised our price point. It wasn't really any more work than what we were already doing. And it was just, it helped us reformat what we were doing in exactly what people wanted, exactly the right price point, how they wanted it delivered. And it was a huge success. It's my biggest selling program to date. And it was because we went back and talked to those people.
Juliet, what's the for those that are listening out there that are eating this up like I am? What's the best way for people to reach out to you, or what's the step for them to really kind of get this thing ball rolling for you? Do you have a process you like to put new clients through, or new new prospective leads that?
Yes. So I'm going to invite you to take a quiz, one of our quizzes, and try it out. You can go to www.leadlogicquiz.com. It's leadlogicquiz.com. And I would say if you want to bypass and just reach out to me, but I want you to take that quiz. So either way, you'll get to me. But go take that quiz and see what it's all about.
Leadlogicquiz.com. Are you? Oh, I love it. I know. Wow, this is great. I'm on it right now. So I'm going to fill this out. I am, seriously. I'm ready. I'm clicking on the I'm ready button and going to the next level. I love it. Oh, and you do the sliding scale too, so it helps people kind of identify that 0 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9. There's
actually a lot of psychology behind that too. It's micro committed, so that your brand, people have to see your brand a minimum of 7 times to peripherally recognize you. That quiz takes care of it 7 times.
Yes, because I see the 7 pages, or the 7. I just had it up there, flip back there. Yeah, step 1 is 7 is one way to do that.
It's 1 of 7, and then the banner goes across the email as well, because it's all branded, it's all colored, it's all, you name it, we did it.
It's just got a big happy bow on it and ready to rock and roll, which is great stuff. That's good stuff. So people fill this out. They answer this, the leadlogicquiz.com. They answer it out, and then you reach out to them. Then you give them a phone call. What's the step after that?
So when they submit, they've given us a lot of information. And if they're highly committed to solving their problem, investing, and talking to us, they get a link right inside the email to book an appointment. And if they're highly committed and they don't book an appointment, then we pick up the phone and call you. So don't be shocked.
What? You're going to actually call somebody?
I'm going to actually call someone and see if they'd like that appointment, because I do realize that sometimes we get busy and, distracted, and we don't go back and book that appointment. So that's what you get. If you are a medium commitment person, I think you get the link too, because we're trying to run the numbers. The more people you talk to, the more success you have. And unfortunately, if you're lowly committed, I think we give you something free and say thanks,
and then follow back up with them later on down the road, I imagine, at some point.
Yeah, maybe not. It depends on how low you are.
There you go.
On how low you go.
That's good stuff. Good stuff there. Once again, everybody, do it. Check it out. leadlogicquiz.com. The link will be in the show notes as well, but leadlogicquiz.com. If you're watching the video, the link will also be in the description below on the YouTube channel there. But check it out. Trust me. I don't know about you guys and everybody listening out there in our Note Nation out there, but I definitely learned some things. Really got some nuggets. I'm taking this. I'm looking forward to this, because when you and I were talking the other day about this, I was like, ooh, I like this. I may know some people that need help with this, or I got to have you on the podcast, because I know there's a lot of listeners out there. They're looking to increase their sales. They're looking to improve on their closing ratios, and also work with better people versus just anybody. And that's one of the most important things, is that if you really want to be truly successful as an entrepreneur, you've got to do the most, that's the way I say, the most productive thing at any given moment. And a lot of times you've got to be talking to the most productive people versus those that are just going to be, as we like to say, the price pigs or the tire kickers, right?
I'm getting that bumper sticker made.
Do it. Oink, oink.
You need an oink, oink for your show. You don't have one of those?
No, I don't have any animal noises on that stuff there. I just have the, kind of that stuff. A lot of times we have a lot of people that will do the old blah, 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 blah for most people. But anyway, good stuff.
I'm going to go find you an oinker and send it to you.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Any other final thoughts, or any other ways for people to reach out? Just jump on that quiz and go from there.
Jump on that quiz. You can reach me at juliet@superbrandpublishing.com, but I'd really love you to look at the product first and know that if you reach out by email, you want it.
There you go. You've got that. That's a buying decision to reach out that way.
That's right.
That's right. Good stuff. And then, Juliet, good luck on your next round of dates. Okay.
Never should have mentioned that.
Good stuff out there, everybody. Good stuff. Well, Juliet, once again, thanks so much for being such a great guest on today's show, and hopefully get a lot of people that opt in there and help you out and get rock and rolling. And if you're listening to this or watching this, guys, and think of somebody who could use some help, whether they're speaking from stage or starting to speak from stage, or they're growing an audience for a variety of reasons, send them a link to the quiz, because it could be helpful. Because that's, I've taken, and I can't tell you how much money I've spent over the last decade plus of trying to improve as a speaker and improve my closing ratios. And if I'd had something like this earlier on, I'd do a whole different ballgame the first couple of years as a speaker and an educator. So highly encourage it. The stuff works, and it works for today, not something that 2, 3, 4 years ago worked. This is something that's going to work for today, and you want to build that connection with your audience and really be able to truly listen and truly answer the needs that they want, and it'll make you happier and make your clients happier too. So Juliet, thank you so much for being on the show today. We look forward to hanging out some more and spend some more time together. All right.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, guys and gals, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Note Closer Show. Like I said, go check out the link, take action, and trust me, if you go do something and take action, keep moving forward, we'll see you all at the top of it at some point. Bye.